Howdy, everybody. How you doing? This is UORadio TalkShow, episode number 43 this afternoon. And I am, of course, MC Viceroy, and it is August 27, 2006. I'm going to turn down the little background music here so I don't get drowned out. And that was, I think that was one of the songs back from the old Ultima Online. So if you've ever played Ultima Online before they converted all the MP3s, converted over to MP3s, then you probably recognize that little melody. But anyways, just to let you know who all's here with me. It's nobody. Yes, it's just a one-person man show today, unfortunately. However, I do have to say that we might possibly be having Arcus and Lucid join us here later on in the show. We're going to be going for about 2 hours. Hopefully we can make it go for 2 hours. And they just might be showing up and popping in and talking about some of these issues that have been going on in Ultima Online with us today. So let me go ahead and start off by getting down to the news as to what's been happening in Cesaria over the last 2 weeks. I think it's been about 2 weeks since we've done our last show. And I think the last time we did our show and everything was actually talking about, about veteran rewards and stuff like that. We was talking about the ethereal not the ethereal polar bear. I shouldn't say the word ethereal. It's just one of those things after so long of dealing with ethereal mounts, you just tend to say ethereal for no apparent reason. And so and I kind of, went over there and checked it out and everything, because since the talk show, since number 42, we've actually had a chance to play around with some of these veteran rewards over on Test Center and stuff like that. If you've ever gone over on Test Center as of late and everything, you've probably gotten a chance to play around with them. And as far as the polar bear goes, it looks nothing like an ethereal mount or anything like that. It's not clear, visible, or anything like that. It's actually just a regular looking polar bear for the most part. It looks like just, any ordinary polar bear you would go out and tame and actually ride in this case. That's the only difference in this case. However, it is summable, through, kind of like you would through an ethereal mount. So in a lot of ways, it's kind of cool, to see that it is not being transparent or anything like that, because I was really kind of worried last week. As you may recall, that I was kind of concerned as to whether or not we're going to just have another ethereal mount. Well, that's not the case. Also, with regards to the veteran rewards, we also talked about the decorative cannon, as you probably recall as well. And some of the things we kind of brainstormed, some ideals and everything, put out ideals about asking, say, why can't we just, not be able, why not allow us to basically place these cannons outside our homes and stuff like that, maybe on boats perhaps. And, some people was like, well, I like to have it on, the boats and stuff like that. A lot of people, I think, for the most part, will agree with me that they would like to have these kind of cannons on their boats and stuff like that. And actually, believe it or not, in a thread over on U-Haul, over on Stratix U-Haul, I've actually, saw like a little screenshot with somebody with a little cannon on their boat. And I just got so excited about it. I was like, oh my God, can you really place one of these cannons on your boat? So I went out and actually went over on Test Center, got me a boat, and actually placed the boat in the water and got on the little boat and placed my little cannon over there. And it says, oh, you cannot place this outside your house. And that's when it really occurred to me that somebody just simply, taken this screenshot either from a player shard or just doctored the photo to make it look like the cannon had been placed on the boat or something like that. So I got really excited about that. And at the end of the day, I just wish, we kind of could place those things outside our homes. And actually, and some other, while testing these decorative cannons and everything, I've also noticed that they really don't inflict any damages, even though they use explosive potions and stuff like that. Now, I don't know what your feelings are on something like that. As far as whether or not you think the cannons ought to be able to inflict damage on nearby creatures, kind of like, shrapnel or something like that, or like an area effect spell or something like that. So I'm kind of wondering, what are some of thoughts on that. Should it, be one of those things that inflicts damages on nearby players and, creatures and stuff like that? Or should it just simply be merely for spectacular purposes in this case, like ooh and ah, kind of like the fireworks? So, yeah, shrapnel. And, so some of these people over here in the IRC chat room over here in the UORadio channel on the IRC Stratix Network, if you go over on our website, UORadio.com, and click on the IRC chat link, you'll actually be able to come right in here into our little chat channel and talk with us and give us your feedback on that. So that's how that works. If you want to actually kind of like communicate with me here, well, that's the way to do it. So, yeah, I think shrapnel would actually be kind of cool. As far as some of the other stuff, I kind of played around with the, the statues and everything, posing in different positions. There's like 3 different poses that you can, put yourself in over on the statue. Like one is a casting, one's like a fighting pose, and something like that. And I mean, it was really cool because you could actually choose from 3 different types of materials, like jade, marble, plaster, I think was another one of them. And it was actually pretty awesome. I mean, however, I don't know. I'm just thinking to myself when I look at this, well, maybe it would be cool if I had, several of these or something like that, but not just one, because I mean, you're talking about using up a veteran reward to get these, if I'm not mistaken. Also, I did play around with the, the personal companion, or in this case, I think it's the personal assistant is what they're called, or attendant. Yeah, personal attendant. And so, I was playing around with these things, and I got the little herald that follows you around and basically shouts things like, "Make way for Viceroy, all shall bow before him. Take that pig over there, roast it, and, fry up some ham." I don't know. I like ham. So, I mean, I didn't have any problems. The only thing I had a problem with was it kind of said there. It really didn't say he or she. Make way for him or make way for her or whatever, depending on the character. I think it should have been more like, it should have more identified the sex of the character in which I was playing. For example, all hail queen or whatever. You get the idea, right? But, yeah, that's the only thing I kind of have a little problem with whenever it came to the personal attendance with the herald. I didn't really ever get a chance to play with all the other options that you get with the personal attendant token. And I think that was because you only get 1 token. Now, had I had several tokens on Test Center, which I think they ought to do, give you several of them, I think I would have been able to play with all the different various, personal attendants in this case. So, I mean, if the developers out there are listening and they want some constructive criticism, give me more tokens to play around with it when it comes to personal attendants, so that way I can, test them all out and give you some, feedback on that and that kind of stuff. But, I'm kind of wondering, have you guys over here in the IRC chat had a chance to play around with the personal attendants or anything like that? And what do you think could be done to make them better? Personally, the only thing that I wish could have happened with the personal attendant, I mean, don't get me wrong, the personal attendants, whenever I'm playing around with them and everything, I like the fact that the already created speech text in which they give you basically a selection to choose from. I like those. However, whenever it comes to something like, for example, I kind of wish, I could give it a custom message. For example, like, have him say, getting to the Luna vendor house, or this event's going on at 7 p.m. or something like that. Spam for me, basically, rather than me having to spam. I mean, I don't know if you know what I mean by that, but it's kind of like the personal barkeeps. If you ever worked with the barkeeps, if you got one of them in your establishment, then you kind of know what I'm going at. Because on the little personal barkeeps, you can actually have them say custom messages for certain words or trigger words that actually trigger this message that gets the barkeep to say something. That's something which I kind of wish would be carried over to the barkeep and everything. In addition to all this, I kind of wish that you could actually. I really didn't quite do this, and I probably should have. I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if, whether or not you can do it. So don't hold me to this if I'm wrong on this. In other words, I'm kind of wishing I could dress up my personal attendant in whatever fashion I wanted to. Now I don't know if that's possible or not. Probably should have tried that, but I didn't. Let's see. It's more news. Going on to the next thing here. Ultima Online has announced that they are going to be releasing a box copy of Ultima Online for October 31st, 2006. And the name of that box copy is going to be called, let me look here, Ultima Online, The Eve of a New Age. And that's going to go for $19.99 US, and that's going to be available for purchase sometime after October 31st. You'll probably see them on store shelves in early November of 2006. So that's when you can probably go out there and start looking around at your local Best Buy or whatever and find them on the store shelf. Probably more at Walmart's. So if you got a Walmart near you, you'll probably find them there. Also, in addition to this, going on a little further, there seems to be something here about if you purchase early, you're going to receive some kind of anniversary gift, which doesn't involve the words soul or stone. So that's good. I don't know about you guys, but I'm kind of sick of seeing them soul stones coming about. It's like we've had the green one, we had the blue one, now we're getting the red, and it's like enough of the soul stones already, okay? But yeah, so you're supposedly going to be getting some kind of special gift if you pre-order or something like that. If I understand that correctly, it said early buy, and what they mean by early buy is kind of vague. I wish they would have used the word pre-order or something like that, because that would have been more understandable and clear as to what they mean by that. So my guess is pre-order. As far as what will be included with this, you will also be able to get Modane's Legacy with this box copy of Ultima Online, which is going to be coming out on October 31st, 2006. And so all you people out there who do not have an Modane's Legacy already, and you're kind of wanting to set up a new account with the Modane's Legacy. Now see, here's the thing. They don't really mention whether or not you're going to be able to upgrade your account to Modane's Legacy. Is this going to include an upgrade code, or is this going to be like a new account code, or what? My guess is going to be a new account code. That's just a wild guess, but if it includes a upgrade code, then that's going to be really awesome. So I think people would purchase it for the upgrade code in a lot of cases if that's available. Let's see. Also, Ultima Online. Not Ultima Online, I should probably say Electronic Art announces plans to release an entire new client in 2007 for Ultima Online, and the name of the expansion will be titled Ultima Online's Kingdom Reborn. Yes, that's right. Now think about that for a minute and kind of keep that in the back of your head, because I'm going to go down the list here and talk about some other things. And when you hear the name Kingdom Reborn, I want you to kind of remember that. And think about where is the game going, with this whole scenario and everything that's going on in Ultima Online right now. I mean, there's a bunch of quests and events happening in Ultima Online right now. So I'm kind of wanting you to keep that in the back of your mind, and I'm going to explain why here in a little bit. Okay. So, one of the questions I have about this whole expansion for 2007, because I would imagine it's going to be an expansion and not so much, it's not going to be like one of those expansions where if you don't want to pay for it, you ain't going to get it, right? Well, in this case, you're going to get something like a new client with this in 2007. So sometime in 2007, you're actually going to get a new client. And from what I'm understanding is this is going to be given to you regardless if you buy the expansion or not. What other things are going to be coming with this box expansion? Or I don't even think it's going to be box for that matter, because if they do anything like they did with Modane's Legacy, it's not going to be boxed or anything like that. It's just simply going to be like, well, here he is, go download it or something like that. Now that doesn't mean for a moment there that they won't have it available for CD or something like that through CD Direct or something like that, or one of those places. I don't know them. I don't buy from them, okay? So you probably, I mean, if you're one of those people who are on dial-up, you really don't, you really can't download any expansions or something like that, well, then I would imagine you probably know a lot more about the outlets for buying, CDs and stuff like that, expansions, and you probably had to do the same thing with Modane's Legacy, for example. But, the good thing about this one that's coming out in October 31st is all those people who kind of, just kind of held off, on buying Modane's Legacy because they're stuck on dial-up or whatever. Well, this is going to bring you up to par. So for all those people who've been begging, pleading for some kind of CD set where they can just simply upgrade to Modane's Legacy, well, this is going to be your opportunity now. So with that said, that's going to be your chance. And I'm kind of wondering, with this Ultima Online Kingdom Reborn, are we going to have a 2D client and still a 3D client? Are we going to have those two different clients like we do now? Because the way we have it right now in the game is that we have both the 2D and 3D client. You have some people who like to play a 3D client, and then you have some people who play a 2D client. But if you've seen any of the screenshots that are going to be available for the Ultima Online Kingdom Reborn, you'll notice that these screenshots look like as if they are 3D or somewhat 3D. So I don't know if that means they're going to do away with 2D or what, or if it's going to be kind of like a blend or cross-pollination between 2D and 3D or not. So I can't really answer that question. I wish I did have some answer for you guys on that. So that's something to think about. And let's see, I'm willing to bet, and let's just say, for example, here, if they're willing to just go with, let's just say they get rid of both the 2D and 3D client, just go with the new client, which is probably one client in itself. Well, that means that it's going to be a lot easier on the development team to actually, create more content, because then they don't have to basically, cater or, do two separate codings. I mean, basically, this would be almost like, I would imagine, almost like programming for both Macintosh and Windows system, whereas, and that's what they're kind of doing right now by what I'm gathering. I mean, I don't know if that's a good analogy to use here, but that's kind of like what's going on with the 2D and 3D client both being around. So, let's see. So my guess is that it'll probably be a one client, basically a hybrid of 3D, kind of like the way the 3D client is. And really, when I looked at the screenshots and everything, I'm thinking to myself, well, other than the characters and stuff like that, and some minor changes, it really does look like UO3D for the most part. Really doesn't look like a full 3D game, so it's not a full 3D game. And the idea behind that, in introducing the new client, is basically what kind of requirements you are going to have is that you basically, it's going to require a little bit more. A lot of people out there are saying, well, if they're going to go this way, maybe they should go all the way. Whereas I'm thinking to myself, well, how much more resources are we going to have to need for our computers? Because I don't know about you guys out there, but I got a computer here, not the one I'm on right now, but I do have another computer here which is like a poor 66 megahertz. And I'm kind of wondering, is that going to be able to run Ultima Online in the future? And my guess is that it's not. I'm going to guess you're going to probably need somewhere closer to 1 gigahertz for a processor, and probably more closer to 64 megabytes of RAM on your computer. Now that's just a wild guess, speculation if you want to call it, and because you are talking about more advanced graphics and stuff like that. This probably, in my opinion, will probably bring it more up to par. Some people are alluding, kind of comparing this to Diablo 2. If you ever played Diablo 2, then you have some kind of a general idea as to what to expect. Now, hold on a minute. Let me get a drink here. All right. So let's see. And I'm going down my little notes here. And, now here's one interesting thought. Now, if they introduce this new client, I'm kind of wondering also if there's going to be no server lines with this new client. Now, what's so big and important and glamorous about no server lines, in a game like Ultima Online? What would be good about that? Well, here's what would be good about having no server lines. If we had no server lines in Ultima Online, that means in PvP, for example, if you've ever been at the Britain Moon Gate, or if you've ever been in, let's see, what's that name, Buccaneer's Den or something like that over in Felucca, then you know how people jump the server lines all the time just to escape death, That'll take care of that little problem right there, for one. Second of all, a lot of people have been wanting to do something more with the waters of Ultima Online. For example, Navy warfare and stuff like that in Ultima Online. Well, the only thing that's been preventing them from doing something like that, from my knowledge, and what I've been told by people, is that these server lines tend to screw up all kinds of things whenever you start open warfare out on the waters of Britannia. So, that would also address the, server issues between boats and stuff like that. So, maybe with this new client, we'll probably see maybe some more love for the seafaring folks out there and everything like that. All you folks out there who like to get on boats and stuff like that, well, this will give you that opportunity to start doing more things out on the open waters. I think that'd be great for you guys. So that's a possibility with the new client. So let's hope for that, because we're talking about a server which could probably handle, without there being any server lines. In other words, so that would be cool if we can get away from the server lines. I do hope that becomes possible with the new client. That is. Let's see. Let me look at here. More notes. Okay. I wonder, and here's my next point, I'm kind of wondering about these other things. I'm wondering if we're going to be able to rotate the camera to view things such as houses from different angles. Can you imagine, because right now, if you ever look at your houses in Ultima Online, pretty much the only way is to enter your house, for the most part, is from I believe it's the east and the south. You pretty much put your doors on the east and south of your house, but ultimately you end up walking into your house from the south, because that's where to my knowledge, that's the only place you can put stairs or steps leading up into your house. So wouldn't it be cool, in your opinion, if you could somehow place steps and etc. and start positioning your house in different directions, rather than facing south. Now, this, if we can somehow rotate our camera with the new client and stuff from, let's say 90-degree increments, well, then we can very well position our house in different directions. Hell, maybe we might be able to catty-corner our houses in the future. You never know. I think that's really kind of cool to be able to basically have your house go from facing south to maybe facing east or north or west, for that matter. So if you had camera rotation, you would actually be able to do that, for example. And you would actually be able to have steps and stairways leading up to your house from those directions, whereas you can't really do that right now. Now, what really prompted me to kind of wonder about that is because I don't know if you guys have actually gone out and downloaded the not the Washington D.C., but the Tokyo UO Town Hall meeting. If you have, well, then you probably remember that in the Tokyo UO Town Hall meeting, that there was a question asked by a Japanese player there, which they posed to the developers, asking whether or not, with Modane's Legacy, if they would be able to, basically, rotate their camera and enter their houses from a different direction. That was pretty much the gist of the question. Now, that's not exactly how they worded the question or whatever, but that was pretty much the gist behind the question. That means pretty much what they were asking. And the answer to that was, of course, no. You can't do that as of right now. So my guess is maybe with this new client, you'll be able to maybe do that. But, let's say right now they haven't taken that into consideration. We are in the month of August. There's probably 4 more months until 2007. Or probably 3. Yeah, because we're at the end of August. So about 3 more months, and then many more months in 2007 that we actually go into. My guess is probably be middle of 2007 that we actually see anything, because, if you've been looking at the way Electronic Arts have been releasing expansions and everything, they've pretty much been releasing them about every year apart, so you pretty much see something come out every year. So you'll probably be seeing it around summertime of next year, is my guess. Second quarter. That's my guess. Second or third quarter. Beginning of third quarter or towards the end of second quarter. Just a little guess and observation. And just give me a little drink of water. Or in this case, tea. Yep. So let's see. Going on with my little notes here and everything. That takes care of all the little questions I have about the 2D and 3D client. Now, and let's see, what am I going to read? Now, there also, and I'll go back a little bit here. I'm kind of tracking here. If you go over to the UO.com website, you can actually find some screenshots of what UO Kingdom Reborn is going to look like. You'll get some ideas as to what it's going to look like. I think, and if you actually go to UO.com, you can find it probably there, or you can go to UORadio.com and you'll find some links up there in which actually, give you like a little slideshow presentation of some of the screenshots that are going to be available and stuff like that. Also, another thing that I have to give them praise for, and this was actually smart on their part for them to do, and that was actually to make wallpapers for this upcoming expansion, Kingdom Reborn. Now, if you've been looking at some of these wallpapers, they actually look pretty awesome. They're like 3D model wallpapers. If you looked at some of them, I think you probably find some orcs. You'll probably find some of the demons and stuff like that holding a sword. And all kinds of little cool wallpapers like that. Now, I think that really does a lot of great things in order to hype up the game, promote a game, get the word out there, and stuff like that. So, I think wallpapers was a great thing. I'm kind of thinking you guys kind of agree with me on that one. And let's see, the next topic here. Also, if you've been paying attention as to what's been going on lately, you've probably also noticed that there's 2 new available recompositions of some of the old UO MIDI files converted into MP3 format, available for download off of Stratix. Now, if you know Tekkarin, I think that's how you say his name, Tekkarin, well then he's the guy over there. He doesn't work for Electronic Arts or anything. He's just kind of like a guy who has these skills and say, well, wouldn't it be neat if we was to take all these old MIDI files from Ultima Online back in the day and basically kind of modernize them and bring them back again, And so what he's been doing is taking all those MIDI files and recomposing them to bring them up more to par with current day, MP3. So that's pretty cool. I've listened to those. The ones he put out were the Forest theme and the Oklo. So if you know what Oklo sounds like in the Forest theme, well then you've probably heard it. Let's see, the 9th anniversary. I've already covered that. And there's also, and here's why I want you guys to keep that little part about earlier about the Kingdom Reborn in the back of your mind. Let's see, and somebody's making a comment over here. Tekkarin has done a nice job on the old music. Yes, he has. He's done a great job, in fact. He's also, now, I don't know what he's going to be working on next. I have spoken with him a little bit. Now, someone over here in the IRC, page 66, has requested that he start working on Scarab Ray. I can't remember quite exactly what Scarab Ray sounds like, but I probably should check that out sometime. But, he really does a great job on all that. So I do hope he continues doing that. And what I've gathered from him during my conversation with him on ICQ is that it takes him about 2 weeks to a month to do one of these. Now, I'm like, wow, does it really take that long to do something like that? And you got to think about it, because I mean, it may be one thing to actually play it, and put it on a piano and actually play the song, but to fine tune it and put the right instruments in and everything to make it sound good and high quality and all that, I would imagine it does indeed take 2 weeks. Let's see. Looking at my notes here some more. And going back to the Reborn Kingdom, or Kingdom Reborn. The reason I brought that up earlier and everything, and I am going to switch that one. I don't like that song. Yeah, I like that one better. But anyways, going back to my little speculation, the reason I want you guys to keep that in mind and everything is because there's been a lot of speculation as to what could all this mean. Like, what was all this black rock about? And what's this black gate that we're seeing over in Ultima Line? And what's going on in Ultima Line? What's going on in Caesarea? Now, you're probably wondering, and I've actually been doing my little homework, as you can probably tell, and been doing some research, as looking up the lore of Ultima. Now, I'm not going to say Ultima Online, because we're creating our own history here. In a lot of cases, I think that's what's really happening, is we are creating our own history. Now my speculation is, and I've actually started this speculation over on U-Haul, and the speculation is the Guardian. Yes, if you know anything about the Guardian in the Ultima lore, then you probably know that he is pretty much a bad guy. No, he's not your next door neighbor. He might very well be, though. I didn't really think about that until now. He might be your next door neighbor. God, so help you if he is your next door neighbor, though. But really, and let me actually pull this up, because I can actually give you a better idea as to what the Guardian is exactly. He's a villain. Okay, he's a bad guy. And to give you an idea, the Guardian is a powerful and an extra-dimensional being that moves across the multiverse, conquering or destroying the worlds in his path. Now, by the way, just to let you know, where am I getting all this? Well, I'm getting it from Wikipedia. Wikipedia.org. Now, go over Wikipedia.org and type in Ultima and or Guardian, and you probably might know or see where I'm getting all this information. The Guardian, and I'm going to read it. The Guardian is a powerful, extra-dimensional being that moves across the multiverse, conquering or destroying worlds in his path. His latest goal is the conquest of Britannia and the subjugation of its people. This brings him into conflict with the avatar, the hero of Britannia. The Guardian dwells within the great ethereal void, where he holds nearly omnipotent power, or something like that. However, despite the vast powers, he is unable to enter into a material dimension such as Britannia unassisted. In Ultima 7, the Black Gate, the Guardian attempts to influence the inhabitants of Britannia into the construction of a Black Gate through which he can physically enter into the universe. Which might kind of hint at why we've seen a Black Gate. Maybe that's where he's going to come in through. The Guardian sees himself as a monotheistic god, often subjugating the inhabitants of the worlds he conquers into worshiping him under the pretext of being their guardian, hence his name. Instead of bringing simple destruction, the Guardian seems to take a perverse pleasure in transforming his conquests into corrupt parodies of his former selves, obedient to his will. Now, I'm kind of reading this slow because got to keep in mind, I'm over here talking for 38 minutes straight without anybody to help me along. So I can't just simply stop right here and, drink without a pause. All right. So this goes on to say this can be seen in methods he uses to conquer Britannia as well as how he rules the lands he has already conquered. And I'm just simply going to give you the link over here in the IRC because you guys probably would much rather read that yourself. And if you know anything about it, we also read in here something about the mentioning of 3 black pillars, black rock pillars, that is. Now, we've already discovered 1 or 2 of them. One being in Trammell, one being in Felucca. Now, there's a mystery as to where the 3rd one is. Now, it would not surprise me in the least if there is a 3rd one. Now, the question is, where is this 3rd one? So, a lot of people have been, and a lot of people don't even know about the information about the Guardian. A lot of people are still, saying, from Ultima line, from Ultima 9, it just doesn't match up. Folks, we are in Ultima 7, from what I can tell. We are basically not using the future. I mean, you're talking about something that's going to happen in the future. What I don't think people are getting here is that we can probably create our own lore, our own destiny, our own fate for the future. It's kind of like Back to the Future. You remember in the movie Back to the Future and everything, with Michael Fox in it and everything? Well, if you remember that, they were always kind of worried about screwing up the future or setting the course of the future differently from the way they know it. Well, we can actually alter the future, so to speak, by what we do now. So that's a good little analogy for you guys. And I know there's a lot of debate going on as to what's going on. But, going back to the whole discussion about the Guardian, why do we think the Guardian's coming about? Why do we think he's about to make his appearance if he hasn't already come through the Black Gate? Well, the reason we think that is because we've already seen the Time Lord snuck into a patch recently, and I think it was 5.04a. And so if you've seen that patch, they actually put the Time Lord into the game. So now they actually have a character named the Time Lord. And that is just basically a key sign that the Time Lord, kind of like a revelation that what's to come, It's actually kind of scary because if this really does end up being true and everything, and this really does come to pass, well, that means there's going to be a great deal of destruction, chaos, and everything else. Hence, the name of the next expansion, Kingdom Reborn. Now, Black Rock, if you know anything about Black Rock, it's very explosive. You use Black Rock in conjunction with the spell of Armageddon, it can blow up an entire shard, an entire world in this case. So going back to that, and here's something else, to add to all that. If you remember back in October, around Halloween, you remember a shard called the Shard of Screams or something like that, if I remember correctly. And if you remember, before the shard went down, we all met over there close nearby Lord Bridges' castle. Now, what happened over there? You probably wonder. Okay, well, what happened over there is that out of the blue, like a cube, just popped up out of nowhere, and it was like a shadowish looking cube, and it had like a shadow, color to it, a hue to it. And so it was called the Black Rock. And I was scratching my head when I was sitting there watching this, I was scratching my head. What's this Black Rock all about? Well, the next thing we knew was Draconi was casting some kind of spell, some spell I've never even seen before. Well, shortly thereafter, guess what? The whole shard went down. Now, you can only imagine that supposedly the whole shard blew up. So, I mean, and this just only goes to back up the theory as to what's going to happen. So we can only hope that, Armageddon is not discovered, or that, the Black Rock is not discovered or falls into the wrong hands or whatever. And because right now, I mean, if you know anything about other games and stuff like that, and lore of other games, like for example Zelda, well then you know about the things like the Triforce of Wisdom, Triforce of Power, and everything. They always try to keep it from the bad guys, and keep the pieces out of the bad guy's hand and stuff like that. Well, maybe the same scenario's happening here. Keep the pieces of BlackRock out of the hands of evil. Now, here's something else to think about. It would not surprise me in the least if there is an NPC later on down the road that pops out of the clear blue and starts asking for people to give him BlackRock, pieces of BlackRock. Well, guess what? If people start turning in this BlackRock to this NPC that pops out of the blue to supposedly construct something, I would second guess that NPC, and here's why. Because he might very well be trying to blow up a shard. It might very well be the Guardian himself in disguise, because he could have control over somebody. Now the Guardian might very well have control over the Enu, because remember the Enu is going crazy and stuff like that, and we can't figure out why. Well, the Guardian has the ability to control people's minds and stuff like that. So, I mean, it really makes you wonder. Yeah, and great point there, page 66. Great point. The Blackmoor contained traces of BlackRock, which is in Lord British's castle. Remember Nystol, way back about a year or two ago? Everybody got together and built this thing that has spikes coming out of it and everything. And it's over in Lord British's castle over in Trammell. Well, if you ever go over there, you'll see that this thing is like a shadow color. Now, this may very well have BlackRock in it, and it could actually be like the third one that we're wondering about. The third mysterious, BlackRock pillar, because in essence, it is a pillar, so to speak. So, I mean, could this one be like the third pillar that we don't know about? Something to think about here. Also, the Guardian wants to become the next Lord of Britannia. He wants to become your master. And so he's trying to become the next ruler of Britannia. So, I mean, we already know about his ambitions. We know about the BlackRock and its volatile, explosive nature. So you have to kind of wonder, can you really trust these NPCs? Interesting. So, I mean, those are all things to think about whenever you go up and read about the the Blackgate series over in Ultima. And you think about the BlackRock pillars, because if you read up on the Blackgate series, you'll understand that there were 3 pillars that were like, pillars of BlackRock. And I'm thinking to myself, there's probably 3 pillars in the game. 2 in Trammell, 1 in Felucca. That would make it all come together and make sense. Yeah, Alex. So yeah, let me point this out. The Guardian is evil. He's a bad guy, not a good guy. So let's get that part straight. He's not your friend. So let's see. What else can I tell you about? Now before I forget, I need to go ahead and tell you guys about this. Over on Test Center, they're doing Now, see, here's another thing that I find really interesting. Draconi over here on Newhall, or somewhere on the forums over at Stratix, have posted that there's historical reenactments of the BlackRock pillar battles. Now, do you find it a little odd that a developer would use the word historical, in conjunction with BlackRock pillar and battles? Now, why is it so historical? Because guess what? The world of Britannia, as we know it, might very well change change forever in the future. I would be willing to imagine, I would be willing to bet that with the next expansion, Kingdom Reborn, that Caesarea is not going to look at all the same. It's going to look like a totally different new world. Now, did you notice in those screenshots that Caesarea looked totally different? You know, so you really have to wonder what all is going to change. Is the landscape going to change of Caesarea? Is the continents going to change? I mean, you might very well see a whole city sink into the water. I mean, Magnesia could very well disappear tomorrow. I mean, those are the things you have to think about. Is you know, going to become a new continent of its own? Is it going to break away from the mainland? You know, all these kind of things. How much chaos and destruction is going to come out of this? Also, with the Guardian, if he does come to life and come into the game of Ultima Online, well, guess what? You're going to probably see many different virtues becoming corrupted. In the Ultima series, the Black Gate, 5 of the 8 virtues were corrupted. So that means that leaves 3 other virtues that did not ever get corrupted. Or, you know, and here's the thing. That doesn't mean all 8 virtues can't get corrupted, because we are creating our own history. So, that's going to be really interesting to see what happens. Now, another thing, the Guardian, he actually has the power to create chaos. Even though he's not yet in the world, he might very well not be in the world of Ultima Online right now, but he has the power to create such strife within the world. And he is basically the Avatar's opposite. So it's kind of like your evil twin, so to speak. Okay, so for example, and here's another thing. A lot of people are saying also, the Avatar has not come yet. He has not arrived. Well, guess what? You are the Avatar. Your character is the Avatar. So, I mean, then a lot of people are saying, well, you know, the Avatar, well, you probably have many different avatars, so you're probably going to have many Guardians. Well, guess what? It doesn't have to be many Guardians. It could be all the Avatar's evilness put into one person, making him a huge and strong and powerful person to where maybe he can blow up a shard or really change the world forever. That's a thought. I mean, it doesn't have to be exactly by the book, so to speak. You can easily change it because we are recreating history here, so to speak. And so are the developers. And I think that's really the neat thing about this whole thing. So, you know, if you're wondering what's going on, that is something you can take into consideration. Okay, so going on a little further. And here's another thing about the Guardian. The Guardian, you can defeat the Guardian many different times. He's not like Lord Blackthorn, or he's not a person that is, you know, immortal or mortal, should I say. I think it's mortal is the word. Mortal is a person who can die and be slain. Whereas the Guardian, I think, is immortal, meaning he's kind of like, if you know of the Star Trek series, then you probably also know about Q. You remember that guy that had magical powers that could easily change things and everything? Well, guess what? I would be willing to bet that, and this is just an analogy, that the Guardian is somehow similar to the same way, is that he can easily, you know, come back at a later point in time. He could be the thorn in your side at all times. Now, and here's another thing. If you have a piece of them, one of the little pieces of black rock, you need to keep that in a safe place, because supposedly somebody's going to come looking for it. The forces of evil are going to come looking for it. How they're going to get it, I don't know. But that's my only guess. However, that doesn't mean somebody can't possibly acquire enough black rock to open up a gate and allow for evil to be happen. For example, I could very well probably buy many pieces of this black rock and assemble it together to form this big, great black rock pillar and cast a spell of Armageddon. I don't know if that's even going to be available to players later on down the road. So that's a question. Is Armageddon going to become a new spell that's going to be available to players? You know? And if so, that means that players might actually be able to take these pieces and acquire them and actually combine it together to really blow up and really change the face of society forever. Now, can you imagine some rich merchant with evil intentions that is on the side of evil that wants to see this happen, acquiring this kind of stuff and really doing something like it? I personally would like it. I like to play the evil role. I don't like, I definitely don't want society to stay the way it is. So I would kind of want to, stir up the pot a little bit and make something happen, so to speak. And so, that's something to think about. A necessary evil. Yes, that would create all kinds of adventure, chaos, and strife in the world of Ultima Online as we know it. And who knows, before this all happens and everything, you might actually see people with medallions of the Fellowship. Now, if you don't know about the Fellowship, and I'll tell you, I would wear a medallion of the Fellowship, because guess what? I'm with the evil forces in this game. I support evil role-playing. And I would wear one in a heartbeat if I had one available. So, I would wear the Fellowship medallion. Now, what is the Fellowship, you may ask? The Fellowship is basically supposedly a religious organization that is out to promote unity, cooperation, and stuff like that. Let me actually pull that up real quick for you guys, and you guys will get a better idea as to what the Fellowship is all about. The Fellowship. The Fellowship is, they strive for unity. They strive to trust thy brother. Worthiness precedes reward. That's the three philosophies of the Fellowship. Or the three principles, should I say. So you may think they are the good guys, and the Fellowship was formed by three people: Batlin, Elizabeth, and Abraham, and they had supposedly traveled around the world of Britannia and seen how unhappy and purposeless people seemed. Now think about this: if you're creating an organization because you see people unhappy and in a world without purpose, well, guess what? Isn't that travel? A world without purpose? A world filled with people who are unhappy? Well, guess what? The Fellowship. There you have it. Lo and behold, the Fellowship shows up, and they're going to supposedly make the world happy, and they're going to form this religious cult and everything, and they're actually, believe it or not, at the end of the day, they're serving the Guardian. A lot of people don't know that. So, if you see the Fellowship come into the game, people wearing the medallions, then you know they're supporting evil. However, it sounds like it's real trammy or something like that. Like the good guys. But it's not. And that's what I like about it. So, let's see. And so, yes, so that's something to think about. Going on, and here's something, and I actually got a little sidetracked, and I do apologize about that. But there is an event going over on Test Center right now. If you go over to Test Center right now, you'll be able to get in it, because there is one taking place right now. On Test Center, on August 27, 2006, there will be a historical reenactment of the Black Rock Pillar battles on Test Center at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, which is now. And also at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time and 9 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. These events will take place in Umbra Arena, and this is open to both spectators and participants. A black moon gate is available in Luna for anyone who would rather teleport and utterly fear walking through the woods outside Umbra. Mages should remember that if you write out, say the words, "and Saint Flame" aloud, if spoken by a Grandmaster or an Elder or a legendary mage, will make these flames disappear. So say that word out loud. "And Saint Flame." And Saint Flame. And so say that, and that will actually remove these flames within the arena. That's going on right now, and then there will be another one 3 hours from now. So if you don't want to go to this one, there'll be another one in 3 hours. So, I don't know if that's been any information to you guys or whatever, but that is pretty much all I have for you guys for this week. Unless I can think of something else, I'm going over my notes, making sure I got everything out of the way. But if you want to get involved with the, oh yes, and that's a good point that you bring up, Magnus, the Fellowship. They are basically kind of like a church of Scientology. So they kind of like practice Scientology, so to speak. If you don't know anything about Scientology, it beats me. I sure as hell don't know. So don't ask me what that is. I just know it's some kind of belief, okay? And I'm kind of clueless about that. I've never really had any interest in Scientology, never really had much of a reason to study it, but hey, you could probably go over there and study it now that it's, Tom Cruise is part of the Fellowship. Yes, that is true. He practices Scientology. He is for the Guardian. He's going to help the Guardian bring about Cesaria to his knees. Yes. I bet you Tom Cruise plays this game of Ultima Online. Wouldn't it be neat if you found out that Tom Cruise plays this game, Ultima Online? And you'd be, oh, so that's where you got it from. Yeah. But anyways, yes. So Scientology, that's what the Fellowship Church kind of promotes. And it would be actually kind of neat if we might see a church or a structure or something like that introduced into a game. So anyways, I'm going to go ahead and basically leave off here. I think I've given you guys much information I can possibly give you guys in one day by myself. This would have normally gone on a little bit longer had we had somebody else in here for the talk show. But, hopefully next week we will. Maybe next week we'll have Arcus and Lucid show up. I know they have something in the works, and hopefully that we'll see something or hear something more about that later on. Because I don't know if you guys remember them, but they come from Caesarean Voices. And they used to do like a talk show every week and stuff like that. I think that would be really interesting. If you haven't ever heard of their shows, you can actually go to our download section over at UORadio.com and download it over in Caesarean Voices, in the little category that says Caesarean Voices. If you want to check out any of our past talk shows and stuff like that, you can download it from over there as well. All 42 of them. There are probably over 200 audio files that you can probably go over there and download and listen to from other, radio stations and stuff like that. They've, done that. For example, Battle Vortex. If you remember Battle Vortex, he used to do a show back in the 98, 99, and 2000 or something like that with many different developers. Not that it's going to be relevant or anything, but, it's always great to go back and hear some of the developers that have worked on the game and see what happened in the past and everything. Definitely at the end of the day, in closing, so to speak, I think we're starting to see a lot more Ultima and Ultima Online, and I think that's a good thing. So, with that said, that's going to go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and conclude talk show number 43 right here on August 27, 2006. I'm, of course, MC Viceroy here at MMOG Radio. And next week we'll probably have another talk show, but I think what we're going to do from here on forward is that we're going to probably move these talk shows to Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern. Yeah, 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays. And what we'll be doing, more than likely, is alternating between guild interviews and talk shows. So meaning 1 week you'll have a guild interview, hopefully, and then 1 week you'll have a talk show. So that way we have, a talk show every bi-weekly, so to speak. So that way we actually have enough stuff to talk about, because sometimes there's just not a whole lot of things to talk about. Let's see. Yep. And let's see. And so we're going to have that. We'll probably come back a little bit here next week and everything, and talk about some of these things again, because I don't think this is the end of this whole scenario. We're going to see how it plays out, and then hopefully we'll have some more information for you guys to come next week. So starting next week, we're going to move to Saturdays at 5 p.m. Eastern, and basically kind of do bi-weekly instead. All right. So once again, this is MC Viceroy from Chesapeake Shard, and this concludes episode number 43. So with that said, take care and have a good day. Oh yes, that's kind of reminds me. Before I go and everything, I actually turn you over to Auto DJ or the next DJ here. Don't forget about our Deal or No Deal that's going to be coming up here in about not 44 minutes, but 54 minutes from now. We are going to be having Sam Mandel doing the Deal or No Deal, and each week we do a Deal or No Deal contest in which everybody has a chance to enter. And a chance to win up to 10 million gold. That is right. So definitely get over here and stick around for that. So that way, if you're not a part of it already, you know how to become a part of it. So stick around for that, because Deal or No Deal is going to be coming up UO style in about 53 minutes from now. Take care.